Hi, 8th graders. This is now Module 4, Angle Relationships. So let's get started. This page that you have here, this first page at the beginning of each module, is just kind of a fun thing. It'd be good to look at this and look at the vocabulary that they're using, different types of angles. What does adjacent mean? What is supplementary? What are non-adjacent, supplementary, complementary? All those things are good to look at and think about. This are you ready? Again, that's important to do just to make sure that you're ready for the module that's coming up. You're going to be learning and looking at angles. So do that and make sure that you're ready for this module. So let's pause the video, work on the are you ready, and we'll get started on module 4, lesson 1. So here's lesson 1, the beginning. Develop angle relationships for triangles. The I can statement says I can find an unknown angle measure in a triangle. And you may have learned some of this before, so it's okay if it's review. For this lesson, you will need a ruler, a protractor, and a pencil. So let's look at the spark you're learning. The angles of a triangle have a relationship with each other. Draw 3 unique triangles. What do you notice about the measures of the interior angles of a triangle? So interior means on the inside. So go ahead and think about that. Measure the angles of the triangles that you've drawn, and then look at the turn and talk also when you're finished. That's kind of an interesting, what conjecture can you make about the sums of the measures of the angles of a triangle? And a conjecture is just an opinion or a conclusion based on incomplete information. So you've created 3 triangles and you've measured the angles and then looked at them and maybe noticed some different things. What kind of opinion could you form based on just those 3 triangles? You haven't created every triangle in the whole wide world, so that's the incomplete information, but you can definitely form an opinion about what might be happening there. So once you finish that, you can go on to the build understanding. So let's look at that. Number 1 says, what is the sum of the measures of the 3 interior angles of a triangle? So here you have 65 degrees, 25 degrees, and then you should know, I'm pretty sure you do, that this little square corner, excuse me, means that it's a right angle, which means that it measures 90 degrees. So they say find the sum of the measures of the angles in each of these 3 triangles. So go ahead and do that for number 1A. Then B says, what did you notice about the sum of the measures of the 3 triangles, of the angles in each triangle? Might be something interesting. C says, do you think this is true for all triangles? Explain. So again, that's kind of like the conjecture that you made in the turn and talk if you did that. And then here they give you this triangle sum theorem. It states that the measures of the 3 interior angles of a triangle sum or add to 180 degrees. And you should have figured that out on your own when you did those triangle measures there, the measures of the angles in each triangle. And so D says the angles in a triangle measure 2x, 3x, and 4x degrees. Write and solve an equation to determine the angle measures. So now that you know this triangle sum theorem, you can use that to write an equation using those 2x, 3x, and 4x as the angle measures. So go ahead and pause the video there, do 1A through D, and also maybe look at the turn and talk and see if you can think about that as well. And then we'll go on to the next page. So here on the next page, we're going to do the step it out. It says the triangle sum theorem, which was on the previous page, can be used to draw conclusions about a triangle's interior angles. And again, the interior angles are the angles on the inside of the triangle. So they've labeled on this one angles 1, 2, and 3. So A says, what is the sum of the measures of angles 3 and 4? So angle 4 here would be called an exterior angle, and they show you that vocabulary word in B. So you can use your protractor there to measure angle 3 and angle 4 and then add those together. And then B says an exterior angle of a polygon is an angle formed by one side of the polygon and an extension of an adjacent side. So here's the side of this polygon, and then here's the extension. This dotted line is the extension of this side here where you have angles 2 and 3. So then they ask the question, which angle in the diagram is an exterior angle? So I kind of think I gave that away, but you could see it's outside of the triangle, so it's on the exterior. That makes sense. If you look at C, if the measure of angle 3 is 60 degrees, what is the measure of angle 4? So use what you've done previously in these questions, and you'll be able to answer C. D, if the measure of angle 3 is 60 degrees, what is the sum of the measures of angles 1 and 2? So if you know angle 3 is 60, what has to be the sum of these two angles in order for it to be true of all triangles? So you can use that triangle theorem from the previous page. No, letter E, which angle has a measure equal to the sum of the measures of angle 1 and 2? And so again, you're going to use the information that you've gotten and the answers you have from A through D to help you answer E. And E says, F, sorry, says a remote interior angle of an exterior angle of a polygon is an angle that is inside the polygon and is not adjacent to the exterior angle. Which two angles in the diagram are remote interior angles in relation to angle 4? So let's look at that a little bit more in depth. So a remote interior angle of an exterior angle of a polygon is an angle that is inside the polygon and not adjacent to the exterior angle. So we determined that angle 4 is the exterior angle of this triangle, and adjacent just simply means not next to, no, sorry, not, it means next to or adjoining. And for specifically for angles, it means having a common vertex or a common side. So if this is our exterior angle, angle 3 is adjacent. It's right next to angle 4. So the remote interior angles are not going to be right next to angle 4. So that's what they're asking there. And G says if the sum of the measures of angle 1 and angle 2 is 115 degrees, what is the measure of angle 4? So again, you should be able to use the information that you've answered in questions A through F to help you answer question G. And again, if you want to do the turn and talk, you can do that. Go ahead and pause the video here before you go on to number 3, because there's a lot happening in number 2. All right, let's look at number 3. A machinist is drawing a triangular piece of an industrial machine. Write an equation and solve to find the value of x. Show your work. So they give you some help here. I would again suggest try writing your own equation based on what you did in the step it out numbers 1 and 2. Build understanding and step it out numbers 1 and 2. And then look at the equation help that they give you, see if it makes sense, see if you like yours better. But I always think it's good to try it on your own first rather than doing exactly what they have prescribed. But you can do that just the way it is if you'd like. So then it says B, what is the measure of the unknown remote interior angle? Again, look back if you need help with that vocabulary. C, use the value of x from part A to find the measure of the exterior angle. So that's this one on the outside of that triangle. And they give you a helpful equation there. D, what is the measure of the exterior angle? And then let's look at this vocabulary that they have here. The measure of an exterior angle of a triangle is greater than either of the measures of the remote interior angles. and that's called the exterior angle theorem. And these are not, right now you don't have to memorize this, but it's just something to remember or think about. So go ahead and pause the video here, and then we'll look at the check understanding. So if you feel comfortable with the build understanding and step it out and what's happening there, go ahead and do the check understanding on your own. Then if you did well on the check understanding, go ahead and move to the on your own, do that independently as well. Then again, this homework is optional, but if you feel like you want to try a few more problems, pick and choose which ones you want, that's fine, but you don't have to do that. And then the test prep and spiral review, I always encourage you to do those. So this is the end of lesson 1 for module 4. So we'll meet again in lesson 2.